everyone, welcome to Format Code Plus HTML 5 tutorials. So today we'll be talking about forms. So let's go. Okay, so forms are used to collect users' input. If you want to build something for a login or registration or an application forms, that is where HTML forms comes in handy. They are used to send data to the server for processing. The server is at the back end, so we're just going to be doing the front end of HTML forms. So let's go to the next. So this is the basic structure of a form. You have your form tag, and then your form element and your form closing tag. So the important form attributes I want you to take note of. If you don't know what an attribute is, you can go to my first video and explain what an attribute is. One of the attributes to take note of is the action attribute. There's action attributes. Action attributes tells the form where it is going to, where it is being sent to, where it is being submitted to. Then we have the method attributes. The method attributes have the get or the post. I'll explain that later. We have the autocomplete. This enables you to autofill. Like sometimes you can go to a website and you're filling your name or something, and it's trying to autofill. It's trying to suggest what you're trying to fill. So we also have that autofill attribute in the form. So when you're putting your website, when you're putting your forms, if there are sensitive data, it is advised, the best practice to use the post method. So let me explain what get and post method is. So the get method means that your information, when you click on the submit button, is going to be visible in the URL. It's going to be visible. So it's used majorly for search forms. Then post is used when you need that data to be hidden. For example, you are filling a form and then you're putting your email address and password. You need to use your post. So it's used for logins and registration. Okay, so one of the elements that would be in your form tag as a form element is the label element. So this label element improves accessibility, especially for screen readers, so they know what your form is about. So you can connect label to input using for and ID. For example, so this is a label, and this label is for the name. So this is name, and then I'm using the input type of text, and I'm giving this ID. So the ID and the for would be the same. We have the same value. That means we have the same name. Okay, we are going to practice this. So this is just a theory aspect. So let's go. So now we have the form tag. Inside the form tag, we also have a label element, and then the other things that we'll have that are very important in form is the input element. So in input elements, there are various types. So the type you give to an input determine what that input will be, like what information am I taking. So if your input type is text, you're telling that that field that what should be there should be text. Or if you set your input as email, it can only accept emails. That means if you put something that doesn't have the @gmail.com, @yahoo.com, something like that, that input will not accept it. You can also have your email type, your input type as a password, as number, as date, as file, as radio, as checkbox. We're going to practice this, so we'll see how they all play out in our code. So there is a text area and the select. So the text area gives you more space for typing. For example, you are filling a form and you are asked to write what motivated you to apply for this job, what motivated you to apply for this scholarship. So you need a space, and they're telling you, okay, let this be 300 words, a minimum. So you need like a good space to fill in that. So this is where the text area comes. It's like the name implies, text area is a large area for text, but you can specify how big or how small you want it to be. Then there's a select. The select element helps you to have options of things that you can select from. So important input attributes. Remember, the input is an element, and inside that element it has types. Inside that input element, we also have the attributes. So some of the attributes are the name, ID, placeholder, required, read-only, disabled, minimum or maximum length, pattern, and so forth. So I'm just going to give you some form best practices. One of them is that you always use your label. It helps for accessibility because of screen readers. There are people that can't see, but they use screen readers, so it helps for accessibility. Your website doesn't just need to be beautiful; it needs to be accessible. Always include name attributes, and always use the correct input types. You don't use numbers for an input that you're expecting text from. Don't use date for an input you're expecting checkbox from. So use required where necessary. For example, your forms, if you're building a form and you need the first name and the last name to be compulsory, use your required. Group fields, using there's something called the field set and ledger. We are going to see that while we're practicing. Always use post method for sensitive data. Don't use get method for sensitive data. Very important. So let's practice now. We are going to build a personal information section. We are going to build inside our form. We have a personal information section. We'll have an application data section, and we also have the submit button. So after we finish saving our documents as forms.html, so we're just going to bring our build structure by using our short code shift exclamation. All right, so we're going to change this title to application form because we are working with forms. Application. Okay, then in our body area, we are going to have a header just to explain what this is about. Each one should be form. Let's say this is a student form application. Okay, so save. So the next thing we're going to do now is to put our form elements. Remember, our form, everything in our form will be in our form element. So we'll just go to the top and open it up. This is where every other thing we're going to be doing will be in. But remember, our form elements have the attributes of action. So I'm going to put my action attributes now, and I will say just submit this to, let's just say submit application. And this has to do with the backend, but that is not our scope for today. And then there's the method attributes. We're going to be using post because we are going to be taking sensitive information from this website. So always remember to save. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is to put my field set, because I'll be having 3 sessions. So I'll be using my field set to section each of the section of my form. So I'm going to save this. Then after my field set, the next thing I'm going to have is a ledger, and my ledger, this is the first session, so I will name this as personal information. And then after my ledger will be like heading. Then I'll have my label. My label will have the 4 attributes of I will name this as full name. Label has full name. So this is full name. And I will save this. So let's see what this will look like in our browser. Okay, as you can see, we have our student form application as a header, and our ledger has that. Our first field set have that personal information. And then this is first name. So first name is a label. We've not yet put the input. So let's go over to put the input right away. Okay, so I'm going to be putting a break tag here because I don't want it to be continuous. I want it to have that block and display. And then I will now put my inputs. So the first input type we are going to be using will be the type of text, because this is for full name, so we need that input of text. And the ID would be full name, so the label can match it up. Remember from the theory class. So I have my input type as text ID full name. I'll put a name attribute of full name, and then I'll put the required attribute because I want every person that is filling this form to fill this name, and I'll save it up. And let's see again what it's looking like in the browser so that we can just duplicate what we've got in here to get all that information. All right. You can see we now have our form name with the input of full name, so the person can put his full name here. Okay, so let's just run over the other codes. Okay, so I'm going to copy this from from the label. I'm going to copy from the label and the input because and duplicate it into 4 places. That will help our coding to be faster since we are almost doing the same thing. 1, 3, I'll place it again. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's 4. All right, save it up. So let's edit this. So I'll remove this first name and make here email. I'll change everything that's first name to email. Okay, so we have all of this edited. This is email. The type for email is type as email. We have the type for form as tele, as in TEL. Then we have the type for date of birth. As okay, I haven't changed it to date of birth as the text as date. So we'll see. Let's see what this is looking like in the browser. Okay, as you can see, we have our full name, email, phone number, date of birth with their corresponding types. So we'll go to the next ledger. Okay, the next feed set we are going to be creating is the feed set for the application details. Remember our first feed set before personal information. Now let's go to the application details. So I'll put my ledger to name this feed set as application details. Application details. And then the next thing I'm going to first input I'm going to be having here is the input the radio for gender. But before then I'll put a paragraph just to name that what I want to collect is the gender. The input I'll name it as gender, and then my input type will be radio. Radio is used when you want the input to be just one thing. You have a list of options the person should choose from, but the person wants one thing. That's, for example, a gender. Somebody can either be a male or female. You can't be a male and a female. So that's where you use input of gender of radio. Input type of radio is when you want the person to just choose one thing. Okay. I would when we go back to checkbox, I also explain that. So we're going to name this ID of May. This is the first one, and then we'll name this as a gender, and we'll give it a value of value is another attribute. Give it a value of May, male, and then close it. And I'll put my label. If you notice in radio, I'm putting my input first before the label. When you see it on the web browser, you understand why it's happened that way. So person can either choose to be a male or a female. Okay, I will just break it here. Okay, let's save this and see what it's looking like on the browser. Okay, so we have our application details feed set, and then we have our radio. You can see that this circle you're seeing here is what is the radio, and then we have me. Unlike this other feed set where we put our label before the input. In radio, you put your input before the label. Okay, so let's go back to our code. Okay, so I'll copy from this input and then duplicate it, copy and paste, and then change the male to female. So I'm changing everything that has to do with male to female, just to gender, male or female. So you can either choose to be a man or a woman. And change it to female. Okay, I'm saving that. So the next input will be input for checkbox. Let me use the courses the person wants to. Let me just name this as paragraph of courses. That is which course you want to learn. Imagine this is a web development application. So I'm going to use my input checkbox input and the type of and checkbox, and then I'll give it an ID. I'll give the first ID HTML. That's the first course I want them to, and then I'll give it a name of courses because that's the name I'm giving it, and then I'll give it a value of HTML, and I'll close that up. Okay, so I've also added my label for the HTML. So this is a checkbox. So we need I'll just want to do one checkbox for HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So since the same thing, to facilitate our writing, I will duplicate this in 2 places and do the edit. So I'm going to change everything in the second one to CSS. Everything in the second one to CSS. This is CSS too. And then I'll change everything in the last one to JS. JS stands for JavaScript. JS. This is JS, and this is JavaScript. So we'll save this and see what it looks like on the web. Okay, so we have our gender. If you notice, we can only pick one of the options, and then we have our checkbox. You can pick more than one options for checkbox. You can pick all of them. So let's continue. Next, we are going to have label for statements. That's the person's personal statement. Why do you want to apply for this course? If you've applied for something online, you must have seen it before. So I'm going to name it as your personal statement. the input type I'm going to be using will be I'm using text area tag instead, text area element, and this ID statement. Always remember that your label has a for that should have an ID corresponding with. Always remember, if you see all of our label have a for and the corresponding ID, don't forget about that. So this is going to have a name of statements, and I want these rows to be 5. I want the statement to be 5 rows, and I want the column to be 40. Let's use 40. So I will just close this and let me put my break. So to have that display of a block. Okay, so let's go and see what we've done so far. Okay, so we have our text area where the user can input and type whatever is the person's personal statements. So the last for our form. Okay, so that's that for the application field set. So the next thing we are going to be doing is to create the button for submission. Okay, next we're going to be writing our button element. It's not part of the feed set. We have 2 feed sets. The first feed set for personal information, and then the next feed set for application details. And this is the button we are going to click. So let's use the type of submit. Let's just name this button as submit. Okay, so let's see how form is doing now. Okay, so we have our button right there. It's clickable. So this is all we've done so far. This is our student form application. We have the personal information, we have their application details, and then the submit button. So we have not started this, but this is just one way you can do your form in HTML. You can notice that the field set kind of gave it a formatting, so it's made it a bit beautiful. So, but when you do the CSS, that is where the actual styling happens. But for now, I hope you've learned from how to build a form in HTML. So till we see again, this is Farmer Code Plus tutorial. Bye.